Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Bonjour tout le monde. C'est un plaisir de vous voir cet après-midi. Et aussi, I would like to welcome Mexico's Foreign Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Roberto Velasco, to Ottawa. It is wonderful to see you here, Roberto, and bienvenido a Ottawa, Roberto. We've had a productive day of discussions. I'm going to speak to those in a moment. I want to first indicate that my thoughts are with the people of Mexico following the earthquakes, and we're closely monitoring those developments, and our hearts are obviously with the people of Mexico and all of you at this time. I wanted to also start by saying Mexico and Canada have a strong partnership. We are friends. Somos muy buenos amigos. Grâce au partenariat Canada-Mexique, nous approfondissons notre collaboration dans des secteurs clés, notamment le commerce, la sécurité et l'innovation, tout en faisant avancer des priorités communes qui renforcent nos économies et créent des occasions pour nos populations. Minister Velasco, your visit today underscores the strength of our bilateral partnership. It also reflects the importance of North American coordination at a time when our cooperation has never been more essential. The World Cup demonstrated in many ways that cooperation is our competitive advantage on the pitch, across our cities, and of course among our countries. And as they say in Mexico, la unión hace la fuerza. Unity creates strength. And that spirit is reflected in the relationship between Canada and Mexico. Mexico is Canada's third largest merchandise trading partner with more than $62 billion in annual two-way trade. Nos chaînes d'approvisionnement sont profondément intégrées et les entreprises canadiennes et mexicaines travaillent ensemble chaque jour dans des secteurs clés de nos économies. Et aujourd'hui, nous avons déjà discuté des progrès réalisés après près d'un an de mise en œuvre du plan d'action Canada-Mexique et des résultats obtenus. En 2025, le Premier ministre Carney et la présidente Sheinbaum ont fait avancer un vaste programme de collaboration et ont élevé notre relation bilatérale au rang de partenariat stratégique global, a strategic partnership that is global in scope. We are focused now on ensuring that those commitments are transferred into outcomes. And if you remember, Roberto, at the bilateral meeting between President Sheinbaum and Prime Minister Carney, both leaders were specifically focused on ensuring that the timeline is met and that objectives are achieved. So Canada and Mexico have expanded commercial engagement at an unprecedented scale. Recent trade missions generated more than 3,700 business-to-business meetings, over 33 new partnerships, and a flagship $770 million investment by Fresnillo PLC in Canada's mining sector. We strengthened health security cooperation in the lead up to the FIFA World Cup, coordinating on the Ebola outbreak and improving coordination on public health emergencies and priorities. Canada and Mexico have launched the Canada-Mexico Strategic Security Dialogue, strengthening coordination on regional security, transnational crime, and emerging threats. So today I am announcing approximately $12 million in new projects that advance the Canada-Mexico Action Plan. First, we are advancing human security. Canada's contribution to the UN Population Fund's Human Identification Program will strengthen scientific and technical capacity, help reduce the number of unidentified deceased persons, and support families searching for answers. Second, we are strengthening regional security. The Turquesa Île, a $5 million initiative delivered through the UNODC and Interpol with 4 countries, including Mexico, will enhance cooperation against criminal networks involved in human trafficking and migrant smuggling. And finally, on our shared environment, we are expanding Canada's dark vessel detection program to Mexico, backed by an investment of up to $7 million that will help 6 countries use the Canadian satellite technology to detect suspected illegal fishing and safeguard biodiversity in protected marine areas. So that's $12 million focused on 3 initiatives in particular: human security, regional security, and maritime security overall. Ces projets démontrent l'ampleur de notre collaboration ayant de la résilience économique et des minéraux critiques à la sécurité humaine, à la protection de l'environnement aussi. It's quite clear that Canada and Mexico share an interest in these areas, in economic security, as well as climate change and environmental security, as North America adapts to heightened uncertainties, including on the trade front. Our economies are deeply integrated, preserving CUSMA, protecting our access to economies around the world, including predictable access to the U.S. market, and strengthening North American supply chains are priorities that we share. And the bottom line is this, that Canada and Mexico are close partners. We are strategic partners, and Mexico is a critical partner for Canada. And that is true economically, strategically, and in the values that we share. La visite d'aujourd'hui renforce ce partenariat et démontre comment le Canada et le Mexique obtiennent des résultats concrets pour nos populations et pour l'ensemble de l'Amérique du Nord. Muchas gracias. Seguimos adelante con un espíritu de cooperación. Merci beaucoup. Roberto, over to you.
Muy buenos días. Agradezco a la ministra Anita Anand su cálida bienvenida y su generosa hospitalidad. Es un gusto regresar a Ottawa para continuar el diálogo cercano que distingue la relación entre México y Canadá. Mis mejores deseos a todas y todos en Chiapas y también en Guatemala después de los sismos de esta mañana. And thank you, Anita, for your words on these earthquakes. Madame la ministre, chère Anita, merci de votre accueil chaleureux. Les partenariats entre Mexique et le Canada n'ont jamais été aussi solides et c'est un honneur de les constater ici à Ottawa. This year, our 2 countries celebrate more than 8 decades of diplomatic relations, a partnership built on mutual respect, trust, and the conviction that cooperation delivers better outcomes for our societies. Under the leadership of President Claudia Sheinbaum and Prime Minister Mark Carney, Mexico and Canada have elevated this relationship through a comprehensive strategic partnership. That commitment has been sustained at the highest levels. Prime Minister Mark Carney's visit to Mexico City in September 2025 launched the partnership and its action plan, and Governor General Mary Simon's official visit to Mexico City in January of this year, building on the 2025 Year of the Indigenous Woman, deepened a dialogue grounded in our shared values of prosperity, inclusivity, security, and sustainability. The Mexico-Canada Action Plan 2025-2028 is a principal framework for this work. Less than a year after its launch, we have advanced over 30 shared initiatives across its 4 pillars, sustained by an active schedule of ministerial meetings, technical exchanges, and institutional dialogue. Allow me to be concrete about what this partnership means in practice. Under the Prosperity Action Pillar, we are facilitating, trade and investment and strengthening port and maritime connectivity, while advancing joint work on critical minerals, clean energy, and advanced manufacturing, the sectors that will define North America's competitiveness. Under the pillar of mobility, well-being, and inclusion, we continue to expand the labor and mobility programs that bring tens of thousands of Mexican workers to Canada each year, to the mutual benefit of both economies. And through our security and environment pillars, we are deepening cooperation on public safety, emergency preparedness, and climate action. This is the true substance of our partnership, coordinated action in the areas that matter most. Today's discussions confirm that this momentum continues to grow. We reaffirmed our commitment to deepening cooperation in trade and investment, energy, health, labor mobility, security, and environmental sustainability, and we identified new opportunities to translate political dialogue into concrete results. We also exchanged views on regional and global developments. When President Sheinbaum traveled to Kananaskis in June 2025 at Canada's invitation to the G7 Leaders Summit, she and Prime Minister Carney reaffirmed the value of rules-based cooperation and reliable supply chains. Mexico and Canada will continue working together through dialogue, multilateral cooperation, and respect for international law to address the challenges facing our region and the international community. Our economic partnership remains one of the defining strengths of this relationship. Supported by CUSMA, known in Mexico as TMEC, and by increasingly integrated supply chains, our countries are well positioned to keep generating growth, innovation, and shared prosperity across North America. And this Sunday, the eyes of the world will be on our region again for another reason: the final game of the FIFA World Cup, the first ever hosted by three nations, Mexico, Canada, and the United States, have shown what North America can accomplish when we play as one team, on the field and beyond it. Mexico and Canada are proving that in North America, partnership is not a slogan, it is a working method. Let me tell you that I honestly believe that this is a prime moment of the Mexico-Canada relation. We are working together basically in every possible area, and today we have been working all morning to find new areas where we can collaborate, from maritime connectivity, as the minister already mentioned, to new areas as the detection of dark vessels that are conducting illegal fishing activities. Obviously, expanding our economic cooperation and finding new business opportunities for our companies. And of course, areas like audiovisual cooperation, cultural cooperation, and bringing different art exhibitions from Mexico to Canada and from Canada to Mexico. So I would say that this is a relation that offers only positive areas of cooperation. It offers opportunities, and we basically don't have any areas of friction, fortunately. We only have areas of opportunity. So I'm very excited to work with Minister Anand, to keep working with the different areas of the Canadian government, and of course, to work with the private sector and to work with the Canadian society to foster this already great relation that we have with Canada and to make it into one of the best relations that Mexico has around the world. Reitero mi sincera gratitud a la ministra Anand por su hospitalidad y por las productivas conversaciones sostenidas durante esta visita. La asociación entre México y Canadá entra en una etapa de cooperación aún más estrecha que seguirá creando oportunidades, fortaleciendo América del Norte y mejorando el bienestar de nuestras sociedades. Muchísimas gracias.
On va maintenant commencer la conférence de presse. On a le temps pour 5 questions, mais pas de suivi. We will now start the press conference. We've got time for 5 questions, no follow-ups. Please state your name and your outlets.
Steve Chase with the Globe and Mail. Welcome to Canada, Mr. Velasco. My question is for both ministers, but particularly for you. I couldn't help but notice that our chief CUSMA negotiator, our chief TMEC negotiator, Janice Charette, is here at the meetings as well. And There's something we both have in common. Canada and Mexico have both embraced Chinese automobiles, in particular Chinese electric vehicles. I think it makes up 20% of your market right now, and both countries are hoping to welcome Chinese manufacturing into their countries. So my question for you is about TMEC. To what extent are Chinese electric vehicles going to be an obstacle to TMEC, to a successful renewal of TMEC?
You go ahead.
Well, naturally, the car industry is fundamental for our country. It creates millions of jobs in Mexico. We don't have a large manufacturer of Chinese vehicles in Mexico right now. I don't think there's more than one Chinese manufacturer in Mexico. At this point, we import vehicles from China for mainly the let's say, lowest cost vehicle sector of our market. We implemented some new tariffs in January as part of a broader strategy of industrial relocalization that is the Plan Mexico. But of course, we're always looking for ways in which we can expand the industrial part of Mexico. Of course, this is part of the USMCA talks, and we continue to look for ways as well to lower the tariffs that the United States has implemented. This is part of the conversation that we have with the United States. And we look forward to continue engaging in this conversation with the U.S. And of course, this is part of the conversations that we have with Canada in terms of our general coordination around the USMCA.
I will say a couple of things. First, on welcoming Janice Charette to the conversation today, of course, and on that note, to underscore that Canada is committed to strengthening and protecting CUSMA, which supports Canadian workers, businesses, and industries, and making sure that we're securing access for Canadian businesses, Canadian workers, Canadians to two of our largest trading partners, and that was part of the conversation that we had today. The CUSMA joint review was an opportunity for Canada, the United States, and Mexico to discuss strengthening North American competitiveness, investment opportunities, and economic security. And on the issue of auto, and in particular Chinese autos, you are aware that we are returning to the 3% production prior to the pandemic level. That's 49,000 Chinese-made vehicles. And the key really is in establishing those lines is that we are cognizant that the relationship, the trading relationship across North America is one of the most integrated in the world, and it supports millions of jobs and billions of dollars in trade. And we're continuing to work together while standing up for Canada's economic interests. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Rachel Aiello, CTV News. Thanks for taking our questions. My question is to the Foreign Secretary, but Minister Anand, if you would like to respond after, please do. It appears as if Mexico is much further along in trade talks with the Americans. Is that a fair assessment? And would your country be willing to go it alone and make a bilateral trade deal with the Americans and leave Canada behind?
The USMCA is a trilateral agreement. And of course, I think the three countries agree that that architecture should continue. Each of us has bilateral issues. There are some issues between Mexico and Canada that always need to be looked at within that framework, and it's the same between Mexico and the U.S., and it's the same between Canada and the U.S., and that's natural. And each of us has a different nature of the bilateral conversation, so I cannot definitely characterize the nature of the Canadian conversations with the United States. Each of us is trying to resolve its bilateral issues in their own way.
And I'll just agree with that there are substantive points for each country that are being brought to the table. Very difficult to compare the progress on those substantive points as a whole. But the starting point for Canada is very much that with both the United States and Mexico, the trade and investment relationship is fundamentally important, and we are committed to protecting and strengthening those relationships, both bilaterally and trilaterally. And so very much the tenor of our conversation today was how can we constructively engage on the elevation of the economic relationship with Mexico, but also on all facets of the relationship, building upon the action plan that the leaders agreed upon last fall. And I'd like to say that the work is iterative and ongoing. That is, that you've seen already business coordination and connection between our two countries just in the past 8 months alone. Well, that is what you will continue to see. More and more economic and bilateral partnerships, not just at a G2G level, but at a B2B level. And that will occur as the teams are undertaking negotiations on the CUSMA. Toutes les choses en français? OK. Parfait. Mais peut-être je pourrais commencer par mentionner que je suis complètement d'accord avec mon homologue là, que c'est difficile d'avoir une comparaison comme ça sur les négociations maintenant, mais on peut le dire que c'est nécessaire de renforcer nos relations bilatérales en même temps d'avoir les négociations sur le CUSMA. Mais qu'est-ce que ça veut dire? On va voir de plus en plus coordination avec les entreprises, de plus en plus coordination avec les gouvernements et les ministres. C'est pas seulement nous comme ministre des Affaires étrangères, mais chaque ministre dans nos gouvernements vont continuer d'avoir les conversations nécessaires, le dialogue sur la sécurité publique, sur l'immigration, sur l'énergie, sur les minéraux critiques. Donc, c'est une position, un processus avec plusieurs membres de nos gouvernements et aussi nos entreprises. Donc, on va continuer de voir la coopération là, en même temps de voir le progrès et les négociations avec nos partenaires dans le continent.
Hello, Evan Dyer, CBC News. Just looking back to the first Donald Trump term and the talks that led up to the creation of CUSMA TMEC, it seemed like there was more public and visible coordination between Canada and Mexico, more talk of a common front approach than we're seeing now. And I'm just wondering, the Americans at the time were very clear they preferred to deal with the two countries separately. Have Canada and Mexico more or less accepted that that's how it has to be? Or do you still see opportunities for a common front approach when negotiating with the United States?
You want me to start?
No, again, as I said before, there are many issues that their own nature is bilateral. And because of that, we need to work with the United States each to resolve them. Of course, when it's appropriate, we have trilateral conversations, as it has happened, for example, as as soon as July 1st. And whenever it's necessary, we also consult with each other, and that's why I'm here. And there's also excellent communication between our trade teams. But of course, there are many issues with which we need to communicate directly with the United States.
And I'll just build on that by saying that, my first visit to Mexico was early August 2025, just 2.5 months or so after I was named to this position. And one of the reasons I chose to go to Mexico as one of the first countries to visit was because of the strong relationship, but the need to continue to build strong ties economically and across the board with one of our largest trading partners. I want to stress that this partnership is about trade and investment, but it is also about the people-to-people ties that very much ground the relationship and serve to enhance then the business-to-business ties and the important work that our government is doing. And so back to your question, Evan, we'll keep working on all fronts. We will work hard on the bilateral relationship with Canada and the United States, and we'll also work on the trilateral relationship as being led by Janice Charette, our chief trade negotiator, and Minister LeBlanc. But there is every reason to be positive about the Canada-Mexico relationship, not just in terms of the $12 million that I'm announcing today, but also in terms of the progress that we have made as a government under Prime Minister Carney, including the strong relationship between our two leaders in Mexico and every time that they meet. And we'll continue to build that relationship as is necessary to grow the Canadian economy and, of course, to partner with like-minded countries around the world to double non-U.S. trade over the next 10 years.
Hi there, Mackenzie Gray with Global News, hoping to get an answer from both of you. One thing we've seen from Marco Rubio in the past number of days is press from the U.S. government to call what they say dismantling the International Criminal Court. I'm wondering if Canada or Mexico has any intention to leave the court, and if the plan is to maintain membership. Do you think that that could be an issue as trade talks go forward as yet another irritant?
I'm certainly not going to comment, as I don't do, on the position of other countries on the U.S. position on this issue. But certainly Mexico will continue to participate on all the multilateral bodies that we do. We were part of the formation of this multilateral system, and we continue to believe in it. We certainly believe that there are many changes that need to happen around some of these institutions. We even agree in many things with the United States, for example, on reforms that need to be made around the United Nations, for example, on austerity measures that need to be taken to make the system less costly. I think that's something where we see eye to eye with the United States, that we need to put an end to this endless growth in the expenditures of the UN system. But we also believe that this is the best system that we've had to deal with global and international issues. So we intend to be participants of the system.
Thank you, Mackenzie, for the question. I was pleased to speak with Secretary Rubio recently at the NATO summit just last week. We had a conversation about Arctic security and work that we will continue to do on regional security, and in particular Haiti. On the subject of your question, the ICC, in our view, should not be politicized, and Canada is a founding member of the ICC and will continue to be a strong supporter of the ICC and its mandate, as we have been since it was established. Therefore, we'll continue to advocate for the court's independence, its impartiality, and its integrity. And in particular, as a former law professor, I will say that the independence of the judiciary is a fundamental value that Canada holds, and it's fundamental to the rule of law. And there is no scope for political interference in terms of the work that judges do. That is absolutely clear. And I will reiterate that Canada remains a strong supporter of the ICC. Thank you.
Last question, dernière question.
Bonjour, Frédéric, Radio-Canada. Donc, je voudrais peut-être avoir votre réponse à vous deux en français, si possible. Je crois que vous parlez aussi français, secrétaire, un petit peu. Un peu, d'accord. Madame Anand, justement, avec la présence de Madame Charette qui est ici aujourd'hui, avec la discussion entourant l'ACUM, CUSMA, est-ce qu'il y a une stratégie commune? Est-ce que vous parvenez à vous entendre sur une stratégie commune pour arriver avec les Américains, pour ramener les négociations? Le Mexique négocie déjà. Est-ce qu'on peut ramener les négociations trilatérales ou même commencer des négociations avec le Canada? Est-ce que vous vous êtes entendus sur une stratégie commune?
Mais premièrement, peut-être je pourrais commencer par mentionner que nous sommes des partenaires, bien sûr, et nous sommes ensemble avec les États-Unis sur les négociations pour l'ACUM. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire dans le mois prochain? Pour nous, comme nous avons discuté, nous continuons d'être en contact. Nous sommes dans une relation stratégique. Et ça veut dire pas seulement sur l'ACUM, mais aussi sur plusieurs sujets dans nos relations bilatérales. Donc, dans les mois prochains, c'est nécessaire pour nos équipes d'être en contact. Ça veut dire pas seulement Madame Charette et le ministre Leblanc, mais aussi d'être ensemble sur d'autres domaines sur l'économie. Les relations économiques entre le Canada, les États-Unis et le Mexique est l'une des plus intégrées au monde. Comment est-ce qu'on peut le préserver? Ça, c'est la question et ça, c'est le travail devant nous ensemble.
Merci beaucoup pour votre question. I'm going to spare you of too much of my French, but let me tell you that right now, obviously, the priority of this visit is to strengthen the Mexico-Canada relation bilaterally. Always, when it's possible, we coordinate also in the trilateral sphere. But as I mentioned before, there are also issues where we need to engage bilaterally. There are many conversations that are bilateral in their nature. Even within the USMCA, in its original architecture, even in the NAFTA, there were issues that were bilateral. Let me give you an example. We have the North American Development Bank in the NAFTA and then in the USMCA, which is actually only a development bank that is designed to finance projects in the US-Mexico border. So even since its inception, it was a US-Mexico initiative, even since the original negotiation of the NAFTA. So because of that, obviously, there's no sense in coordinating all issues and having a joint strategy in all issues. So there are several conversations in which we're working bilaterally with the United States, as we understand Canada is doing. And of course, we have excellent communication between our trade teams. And we continue to work as well in our own bilateral trade issues, and we will continue to do so.